Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you, and if you're my previous subscribers, welcome back to the channel. So for today's video, we're going to be covering, are there aliens? So we have spoken many times in the past, over the past 2 years, I think, about aliens and stuff like that. Some of my dreams and stuff like that, premonitions. I had some things happen to me that I never really spoken about on YouTube that I will end up speaking about sometime, later down the line. I can't guarantee when, but it's gonna come eventually. But there has been a lot of extraterrestrial type experiences that I have had over the course of this entire YouTube channel journey. And so in this video, we're going to cover are there aliens? So now, just keep this in mind, this video is just a blind tarot card reading. And I don't know exactly what was going on in terms of the Congress and the whistleblower, whatever. I don't really delve into that. I just want to get out of politics as much as possible and try to just read from the intuition rather than what other people are saying and stuff like that. There's a lot of misinformation and confusion. Again, this video is just for entertainment purposes only, and that is all that this video is. That's it. There's no reason for you to be in a state of fear. I'm all just trying to make some sort of entertainment content. So regardless of that, let's get right into it, shall we? So this video is being recorded on August 1st, 2023 at 1:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here are some quick disclaimers on your screen right now. Just feel free to pause the video to read them on your own time. This video is just for entertainment purposes only and for education purposes only as well. So everything here is just for entertainment. And here are some quick other disclaimers. Just feel free to read them on your own time. So I am running on a tomato. That's all I ate today. I ate like a little cherry tomato from the garden. That was it. So one of the reasons why I do that, because when you eat, your intuition is kind of weakened a bit. I'm trying to not eat so that you guys can be able to get the most intuitive, most psychic readings. I'm also trying to do some sort of experiment to see how strong my intuition will get when it's in a state of survival. So, regardless of that, we're gonna get right into it. So these questions are a little bit weird. I hear them from my guides, especially when me not eating. I get weird questions. So the question that we're going to cover today is, why are they here? We're going to cover what they found true. They told me to word it this way because the other way I was wording it was a little too out there. So we're going to word it this way. They said, what dangers are this posed to the world? And the last question is, why is it that the United States is revealing this, but no one else? That would be the last question. So it is, why are they here? So the first deck that caught my attention was called the Gateway Oracle card. I thought this was very interesting that was that was the deck that I saw. And this is actually the crystal that called apatite crystal, and I really see that. It reminds me of the heart of the ocean, is really what this reminds me of. But yeah, that's just what's drawing me right now. It looks kind of like the galaxy. If you look from this perspective and the lighting, you can see the gorgeous beauty of this. Like, it's gorgeous. So anyway, besides the point, let's get into it. First card that we have here, we have Staven Legend. I fully embrace bliss in my life. So it feels like, in a way, like a lot of extraterrestrials or aliens or whatnot, in some capacity, travel because they're able to do so. And that's normally like the way that humans do it. Like, once you're able to be financially secure and do all those things, you can go on vacation, do whatever you want. Kind of feels like the same type of situation that's going on with aliens or extraterrestrials. I'm also getting, as well, for those of you guys, including me, who are spiritually very in tune and practice some sort of spiritual gift or has spiritual gift or some psychic abilities of some sort, you're more prone to receiving some type of extraterrestrial experiences than just, say, somebody who is just brain dead, so to speak. Now, the right card here and the future card is wider here, really. When we have embarking on an adventure, I savor the wonders of the world. It's reversed, and what this tells me is they did not mean to come here. It was an accident. It was almost like they got put off course and they accidentally crashed here. But it was not intentional. It was never their mission to come here. However, we do have the middle card here, receiving from angels. shimmering wings of angel embrace me with love. So why are they here? These are very loving, what to call it? Very loving species of extraterrestrial. And that's what I'm getting here. They're very loving, you know, extraterrestrial. And it kind of defies the norm, the biblical norm, that there is only, God made Adam and Eve and nothing else. And it kind of goes against all that. And that's really what is also indicated here as well, is that the reason why it took so long for it to come out was because it doesn't play into man's narrative. It doesn't play into man's narrative. Now, keep this in mind as well. When I'm seeing in my third eye, I'm seeing this creature, or this, I kind of should have called him a creature because this still a living being and should be treated as such. So I would say extraterrestrial. What I'm seeing is more gray skin, very similar to the Greys. However, they look very similar, and the Greys are very known to be controlling and working for the reptilian type alien race, if I'm correct on that. But they look very similar, but there's almost a different species of the nicer one. So there's one that looks similar to the Greys, but it's not the Greys. And they're a lot smaller. So I would probably say they look about 2 feet. They're not really that big at all. Most people in movies and TV shows would depict them as giants. They're very small. They look like young children, maybe teenagers, could be young adults, but they are pretty young by extraterrestrial standards. And that could explain why they were not able to navigate the galaxy correctly, because maybe they don't have their proper experiences. But nonetheless, that stuff like that. It could easily have been one of the situations where your kids take out the car keys, they go out to go drinking with friends, and everything just goes off course and they end up hitting a tree. But in this case, they did that, but they ended up landing on planet Earth, and they were being caught by the U.S. government, which is never really a good thing, because anything that involved or anything where the government hands are in, it's pretty bad. It's pretty naughty. So just keep that in mind, that everything that revolved around the U.S. government is never really a good thing. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what I'm seeing here, is why they're here with an accident. They were just basically just traveling just for fun, and they accidentally landed here. They didn't intend to. It just happened. Something like we're the Bermuda Triangle of the universe. So, what they found, is it true? We're going to ask that question now. It'll be really curious to find out if it's a no, but we're going to see. So, can you give me clarification on what you're talking about in the previous question? What the previous question is, why are they here? There's a couple of variables being at play here. So, the first question is, I asked, what they found true? Is it what they found, the whistleblower, and what they claiming is true? Is it true? It's a very complex question, so I'm going to try to simplify it as much as possible. However, I did ask, well, the answer that they gave me is dramatically different than what I just told you a couple of minutes prior with the other question, why are they here? And the thing that I asked for clarification, and I asked for why did they tell me all the information if they said that is not true in some capacity. This is a 3 of Pentacles reverse. And what they told me, there is certain information that cannot be said aloud. So although I'm not able to explain why they are not here, and why they're telling me that what is being claimed right now is not true, at least in the way that they're portraying it. So now we're going to talk about this and why they're telling me that. So what I've gotten when I was placing these cards down was that, no, what this guy is talking about is that even though it tells me about other extraterrestrials, those extraterrestrials are the ones that never been found or caught, right? Those are for this question. Now, for today's question is what they found, is it true? Well, what it's telling me here is that no, these are bred in captivity, which basically tells me that there is no need for them to go out and look for others because they already have them in captivity. So it almost feels like in some way, with some form of what they found is just another version of their alien or their extraterrestrial, so to speak, maybe possibly trying to escape, and maybe they caught it and someone decided to say something. Maybe someone who revealed information on that might have had a close bond with that extraterrestrial to the point where they were trying to get everybody to know about it, stuff like that. Now, keep this in mind, this video is just for entertainment purposes only. and it's probably going to get taken down. I mean, I already had a lot of difficulty even trying to make this recording video. But we do have here, we do have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We do have the 9 of Cups. And the 9 of Cups here is indicated on the left side here is that it almost feels like there's arrogance here. It almost feels like there's arrogance. And it almost feels like in some way or some form, I'm going to say the government, because in general, we don't know how many governments are actually involved in this. But I will say a large chunk of them had invested high amount of energy and money and time and effort into trying to get them. And they got them. There are plenty of different species. There's not just one. We do have here, we have the Hanged Man reverse. And the Hanged Man reverse is the middle card. And the middle card is reverse. It almost feels like, you know, the way they treat animals in like a shelter? Well, not really a shelter. More so the way they treat children in an orphanage, and it's not very good treatment. It's the same way that they treat these extraterrestrials very poorly. And it's very poorly misunderstood. Humans trying to treat them like the boat people, including scientists. Scientists are not all good people. Let's just make sure that bundle clear. It almost feels like the way that you see it on, you know, Stranger Things, the TV show, it's the same treatment that they provide to these extraterrestrials. It's actually quite sad. You have here the third card here, it's the Ace of Cups, and this is the reverse. And this is the first card that told me no, what they found is not true in the sense of the story that's being told. Possibly because it's clearance, maybe it's high clearance, maybe they don't have access to all the information to be able to reveal it correctly. So the way the story is coming out, I don't know exactly what the story is, but the way the story is coming out is saying that no, that is not what happened. But here is actually how it happened. They exist by definition. They exist by definition, but they are here. They were born here. They weren't born extraterrestrially. We have the card that goes in between reverse of the Hanged Man and the Ace of Pentacles reverse. We have the King of Pentacles reverse in between that. And it kind of tells me in some way that they kind of captured a type of leader or someone in high positions of power for another society or another extraterrestrial society. The reason why it almost feels like what they're doing is they purposely did this as a means or an effort to try to get more of them to come to try to rescue their leader, and in return possibly end up getting captured. It almost feels like the way the U.S. government is seeing this is the same way that I hate to say it, but I just gotta say this. It almost feels like the same way that it feels like it's the same way that the government or, you know, kings and queens back then around like the 1700s to 1600s saw Africans in Africa, where they were like, oh well, these people are inferior, we can use them for slaves and stuff like that. It's kind of a similar faction to how the government sees extraterrestrials. They don't see them as, you know, entities with feelings and stuff like that. They see them as money. How can they make something out of it? How can they generate something out of this? And that's what it kind of feels like. It feels like, in a way, that they're trying to force them into slavery of some sort. Again, this video is just for entertainment purposes only. I'm not trying to cause a panic or a scare or anything like that. I'm just for entertainment content only. None of this is real. Right. We have the Four of Swords reversed, and the Four of Swords reversed is the end of something. It's the end of something. I don't know what that means. It's the end. Okay. So we have the Biden administration. This is the Biden administration. This is the card that comes up for him during election time or in general. Yeah, Biden is aware about this. He knows about them. A lot of you guys are not going to like me after I say this. There's a lot of negative energy. And the reason for it is, if you look at this person dies, right? Look at the person dies. They're not human, right? But then look at their feet. Then look back at their eyes. Look back at their feet. And look back at their eyes. Now, I'm not trying to accuse anybody of anything. I just find it odd that I noticed this just now. That I noticed that. You know, it's theoretically possible that, could I get it? they knew about it, they talked about it, they caught them around the 90s. So that's what I'm getting, like around Bill Clinton time, around George W. Bush. Um, it's interesting because what I'm getting here is it almost feels like it's a clone of some sort. It's almost like he's alive, Biden, but there's like a clone of some sort. And like a mutual agreement between two people. A mutual agreement. I find this to be very strange, very nerve-wracking, I'll say that. But we're going to cover that in a minute and find out why I feel that way. Why I feel that way. Spirit Hands will tell me, why do I see that? Why did the King of Cups come up as a reptilian energy? Something I never noticed before. Why did it come up now? Okay, so we have challenges. We have tied up and we have temperance. So it feels like in some way that there is some sort of mutual agreement, but there's also some sort of weakness. And so it's possible there could be some sort of what's to say, revenge. Maybe possibly say, well, you locked me up, you twist, you mean that I'm going to do the same for you. It feels like in a way that they have medicinal properties. It's also possible that the reason why this is ongoing is that it does feel like in some way there could possibly, if it's more friendly than negative, it could be a mutual agreement to say, hey, listen, I'm not feeling that well right now. Can you just take a step in and pretend to be me? It could be that as well. Now, I'm not saying anything about Biden or anything like that. I just find it to be very interesting that it comes up for the presidency card as a whole. Now, that may also keep that in mind. It also might not be indicating President Biden at all. It might just be indicating their leader, which I have mentioned before. But the leader is reptilian of some sort. So, yeah, I'm not saying Biden is a reptile or anything like that, but I am saying that there does seem to be some sort of correlation of leaders meeting with other leaders who are extraterrestrial who happen to be reptilian of some sort of scaly. What danger does this pose to the world? Okay. So what I'm seeing here, it almost feels like reality is going to start collapsing on its stuff. Like people are going to start questioning, but wait, but then they say that happened, or then they say this happened, or blah, blah. Things are going to start connecting. Dots are going to start connecting. And that's when it's going to start to go down. Go down. Because we have the sun card. And the sun card is revelation, our perspective, our mindset of how we view the world. Right? A lot of people, ironically enough, the sun card it comes up ironically for how we view the world. But in this case, this is what it represents. And it is the challenge to this question is what danger does it pose? Our perspective of our universe, the perspective of our world, what we always knew, what we grew up with, right? We have here that card is a challenge to the past tense, right? This is the past card. When I talk about presidency, pass from one torch on to the one next person to the next. That is what this card is indicating. It's talking about the next era, the next period in human evolution, in the world evolution, universal evolution. It's really what this starts talking about. It talks about our past history. And it talks about how we take the next step forward. Now that we know all this, where do we go from here? And that is really what the contemplating is. What danger does it pose? It basically talked about how our perspective of our world before knowing this information was genuinely true, that our world just kind of stayed to our own perspective. But now that it has been blown open, our perspective starts to get bigger and we start questioning things on a more rapid pace. On the left card here, we have the Three of Wands, right? Destruction, renewal. This is not the first time humans have encountered extraterrestrial life. In general, humans have been extraterrestrials who actually came here and wiped out other human race. And they intermingled, and that would explain a lot of the DNA and stuff like that. And that I'm basing off on my channeling that I got a long time ago, The Guardian of Eden, which I talked about how these extraterrestrials and how humans came into Earth and they end up crashing. And I'm gonna talk more about that in depth because I did get a more of a deeper challenge I'm gonna talk about and how that creates the earth that we're in right now in the vibration frequency and how that is starting to reverse itself. But we'll talk about that in another video. The three of one, she was also talking about the church, specifically the church, the religious aspect on how the church tried to keep this quiet, that the church was the government back then, and that they met with these leaders in hope that they can be able to maintain control in response of providing the extraterrestrial what they need. We do have here on the right card, though, we do have the Lovers card reverse. And this is normally the card that indicates the Garden of Eden or Adam and Eve, the creation of man and woman. It's for birth. And what that tells me is that it kind of resets the clock for human evolution. And the reason for this is, like I said, humans, modern day humans, at least our species, do not belong here. We have genetic DNA that is outward, that is not from or of this earth. Because of that, this lover card here is reversed because it tells you that our evolution, the things that we thought we knew, are far beyond what we expected. And because of that, a lot of scientists are aware of that. They are aware of those. Those who have clearance or know that there is more to the story of human than what we were told to believe. And we do have the bottom card here, and the bottom card is the Fool card. And that card is reversed. And that tells me a lot of people know that we're not playing. They know that when they see this information, they're like, oh, this is like a Tuesday. They become desensitized. But no one is a fool. That the government thought people were going to be freaking out, having mass hysteria, mass panic. When in general, we were like, oh, God, thank God. Hopefully they take us out so you have to pay less taxes. Something like that. People just aren't surprised. I'm not even surprised. I knew about them. I had instances where they tried to do telepathy. Even the Greys tried to. I freaked out because they gave me a planet number and it confirmed it. But that was actually their planet when I looked it up online, and my friend and I were freaking out because they're part of the reptilian race and I don't want to be associated with that, so I had to get rid of them. But anyway, that's diarrhea of the mouth right there. But what dangers does this necessarily pose to the world necessarily? It doesn't really pose anything. It poses to our own reality and our perception of what we thought we all knew, including science, and how that changes everything going forward. So the danger that it poses, everything changes. That's the danger. That's really all it comes down to. So the last question that we're going to cover today is, why is it that the United States is the only one revealing this information and no one else? So we're going to talk about that now. I found that to be really interesting. I was like, wait, why is no one else talking about this? So I think the best tower deck to be using right now is my card, my deck that I made. So we're going to use that. It's a very big deck. And in my right ear right now is I'm hearing that now again, guys, I'm not religious by any means, but it does talk about the Babylonian state and how the U.S. is the Babylonian state, and by that they are indicating to me that what they're saying is that basically there's a mutual agreement between extraterrestrials and the U.S. government on there's something there, that there's some sort of agreement between the two. That's why no other countries have access to them the way the U.S. government does. I don't know why that is. Okay, so they said that they were originally connected to Germany, and then the U.S. took them over. What Germany are you talking about? They're talking about the 1930 no Germans. That mustache man? That's what they're talking about. Is that why technology improved at a rapid pace in the United States? So they're saying that, like a lot of this German scientists were built in, were basically like superhuman intelligence, that they have some sort of alien DNA. Well, like not doesn't necessarily feel directly like alien DNA. It almost feels like they took DNA from extraterrestrial, then exchange for superhuman intelligence of some sort, which is why we had a super advancement in technology over the past century. So why is it that the United States government is revealing everything about extraterrestrial, but no one else is? So we have like the reverse card. So when a reverse card is reversed, we only read the upright card on the back of it. Okay. So here's what I'm getting. When I was pulling these cards, it felt like 1980 with the Soviet Union and Ronald Reagan. And it feels like at this time, the Ronald Reagan administration, there was something going on with the Ronald Reagan administration. And it feels like in some way or some form that they had to get some sort of security clearance. And that is why the Supreme Court shows up. Now, it doesn't seem like it's a public profile, a public court case. It does feel like it's private in some capacity. But they needed a warrant for something. During this time, there was a warrant, and they had to abide by the law to prevent an impeachment trial or everything would blow that open. There is some sort of threat of some sort. Uh, well, if this information reveals you're removed from office, it's basically what it's indicating. Because it is here that they have the music industry, and the music industry plays a major role. You know, the music industry, when you do it, a lot of people listen to music because that is something they're passionate about. It gets them out, and it's an escape from the real world, the reality of it all. And what it basically is saying here, under the Republican hold, the conservative mindset, technically, it's indicating here that there is some sort of genetic shift. There is some sort of mind shift during this time. And what it was to try to redirect the focus away from the civilian focusing on certain things within the US government and focus them on other aspects like music or entertainment. You know, a lot of times when you see like sports arenas or sports things, they normally take place when government passed laws bills. And that normally goes unnoticed because people are so entwined when it comes to entertainment that they don't notice their rights being taken away. And that's why the music card is showing up. The music industry is showing up in the 1980s with Ronald Reagan, because it makes a lot of sense. Because during that same time period, we have Michael Jackson, we have the Prince, we had a whole bunch of really good music when it comes to the rock, literally speaking, that it really got a lot of people away from the reality of it all. And that's why we have Stranger Things, the TV show. It really shows through the evil of it and how the government got away with it. Right? And we do have in here a landslide. And that makes a lot of sense because the landslide, I talked about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan is the last one to have a landslide. And that's not the card that kind of told me Ronald Reagan, but it's the card that indicates it confirmed what I already knew. It's basically the confirmation card, so to speak. But remember, I said the no Germans. Well, during this time when FDR wins the landslide in 1936, I did mention the no Germans and how they had some sort of technology or advancement and how it switched over from the German to the US. And during the 1980s, that's when we start to really see it into place. So I'm not exactly sure what went on in the 80s. I didn't live during that time period, but if you remember anything that interesting or anything that possibly could have happened during that time period you found was odd that maybe you might remember, that might be what this is indicating. I don't really know what this is indicating. But we do have here in the end, we do have breaking news. We have spinning stories, fake news, divide the nation. It's another form of entertainment, really, what is it indicating here? What is it indicating to me? Is it indicating a way to redirect the public and say, no, they don't exist. It's all fake news. They don't exist. Just look away, look here instead. It's really what it's indicating. The nut card that showed up is trouble ahead, right? As more and more people and as society during the technological boom around the 90s and technology advances, there's going to be a lot more people talking about it, like, oh my God, I see a UFO, I see things, and there's more rapid revelation of, oh my God, I saw that too. Like, we're not crazy, like, this is the real thing. And that is what this card is also showing up here is trouble ahead. Right? The trouble ahead during around the time of the Cold War, we also had some scares of a nuclear war. right? And that also made them very alarmed. Now, in the past, we spoke about how extraterrestrials like to come to planet Earth to try to calm down any possibility of a nuclear war. Because if that happened, we create a new asteroid belt in the universe, and that possibly puts a lot of other extraterrestrials at risk, so they cannot run the risk of the U.S. Basically having the U.S. turn into an asteroid belt. And that's really what this card is indicating here. It's also indicating that they normally tend to increase heightened activities during time that when nuclear war breakout may have a high chance of occurring. That makes a lot of sense because if you think about it, like during this time period that we're in right now, we're having a lot of talks about possible nuclear war and stuff like that. And so it makes a lot of sense that all this information coming out now could have come out normally around the time that, nuclear war or nuclear breakout has a high chance of occurring. We do have here during this presidency, the Democrat holds the White House, but it's not true because we currently hold the White House. This is also indicating Bill Clinton during the time when things started de-escalating in the 90s and stuff like that. And so it was able to, use music or use entertainment and just like movies, and people were like just going out and enjoying things, having the best economy because they were focused on other things other than what's out there, anything other than the secrets of the government. And but now that it's all come to back forward, people are like more concerned. Everybody's watching the government every move. The social media is out there. There's a whole bunch of factors that play into that. But yeah, so that is why the U.S. government is revealing this information, but no other country is, and particularly because the U.S. has some sort of agreement, and they were able to take the reign away from the Germans, the no Germans during the 1930s. Around that time period is when that started shifting. It didn't come into full effect until the 80s. So it took quite a while up until that point before they got to this point. But it was full effect that a lot of presidents since Reagan have been very aware of this, or even have interacted with some of these entities. So that is why we have TV shows coming up about like Stranger Things and all those things, because those things um, may have more truth to them than you like to believe or like to be led on. But anyway, hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and the bell icon, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.